Okay, so we are going to continue with EE7 today, and that is I can solve equations, but instead of modeling we are going to use standard form. Okay? Standard form, which if you really like the modeling, if you understand the modeling, you're like, oh, I can do this, no problem, you're going to love standard form. Okay? So I want you to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on the 8th line I want you to write solve equations. Then I want you to draw a circle around that. And then from the end, I want you to draw a line, the edges, like so, and then find the center and draw a line straight up, like so. Okay, because we want to, again, talk about two important things. First of all is our goal. Oops. Our goal, which is to solve. Alright, solve meaning we want to get the variable by itself to equal a number. We do that by performing inverse operations. Inverse operations. Inverse. Does anybody know the definition of inverse? Inverse. Inverse. Max? Inverse? Does anybody know what inverse means? Inverse. Or?
Like opposite.
Yes, opposite. Opposite. So if we were talking about inverse operations and we were talking about addition, what would the opposite of that be? What is the opposite of addition? Jordan? Yeah. So we have the opposite of addition is subtraction. So likewise, if we have subtraction, what would be the inverse of subtraction? Inverse of subtraction. Nate? Addition. Exactly. Okay? So we've talked about some opposites there. These are going to come in very handy for us. Okay? So then we also want to keep in mind one of our key ideas. Okay? And that is keep it equal. Keep it equal. Meaning always do the same to both sides of the equation. Always do the same to both sides of the equation. Always do the same to both sides of the equation. And we talked about that before too, right? So neither of these should be new ideas for you. We're just kind of reminding ourselves. Our goal is always to get the variable by itself to equal something. Okay? And a main point about that is that we need to remember to keep it equal. We always do the same to both sides. Okay? Let's look at some examples. Okay, some examples. I want to start showing you and talking about standard form because modeling is nice when we're just starting out so we can really understand and see what we're doing. But as we get increasingly large numbers, we're not going to want to model those. Like if we had x plus 75 equals 399, we're not going to want to model that. We're not going to want to draw a 399 positive sign. Okay, that's just going to be insane. So we need to know a different way to do that to show our work still. Okay, so that's why we're going to transition into that standard form. And standard form means that standard form. It's the way that is standard. It's the way that most people learn how to do it. The majority do standard form. Okay, across the country, across the world. Okay, so let's take a look at that standard form. Let's start with comparing them. Okay, so here we have, we're going to take a look at a model first. Okay, and let's model x minus 3 equals 4. Okay, so we're going to draw a box that will be our kind of place to model. And it has a little box inside like that that has the equal sign in it. That's basically what we've been working with, right? Okay. And then we would take a larger rectangle and we put an x in there, and that would represent our x. And then we have minus 3, so we have 1, 2, 3 negatives, right? And then over here we have 4 positive. Right, so we have our equation modeled. Then we'd start looking at ways to meet our goal, which is to solve, get the variable by itself. So we need to get x alone. When we look at it, at first we want to just minus those 3 out, but we can't do that because we don't have any negatives over here to subtract. So we got to think about it a little differently and think about some zero pairs. What we can do is add 3 positive. That would make that a zero pair, and we have x alone. So what we really did there is add 3. So because we added 3 positives here, we need to add 3 positives here. So we would add 1, 2, 3. That would give us x equals 7. And that's how we would do that with a model. Okay? Let's look at standard form. Now again, I think a lot of you guys are going to really like that standard form. I think you get the modeling really well, you understand what's happening there. I think the standard form, you're going to go, oh, that's so nice. Okay, so we start with our same equation, x minus 3 equals 4. So when I'm looking at this equation, I see the minus 3. I see the 3 negatives. So I'm thinking already in my brain, the only way to get rid of those 3 negatives is by adding 3 positives and making those zero pairs. So I add plus 3 right here. That would make that a zero pair. I add a 3 on the other side because remember I always have to keep it equal. So these became zero pairs, so I know I have x equals 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay? So it's the exact same thing I did here, except I just took all the positives and negatives out. See how I added 3, added 3? Right here I add 3, add 3. These are my zero pairs. X equals 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay? Let's look at another one. Let's look at A plus 7 equals 10. Go ahead and model that one. No, actually, let's not do 7 plus 10. Let's do something a little smaller so we don't have so much to work with. Let's do A plus 2 equals 3. Just for the sake of time. A little model box. Okay. So I have A. I'm going to draw my A here. I have 2 positives on this side, and I have 3 positives on this side. A plus 2 equals 3. Okay, so right away I'm seeing I have 3 positives over here. I have 2 positives over here, so I know I have positives on both sides, so I can just subtract or minus 2 positives on this side, and I'm going to minus 2 positives on that side. So I have A equals 1. A equals 1. Jordan?
Would adding subtraction negative
Yes.
signs would
Yes. It'd be the same thing. Adding 2 negatives is the same as subtracting 2 positives. Yeah. So let's take a look at standard form. A plus 2 equals 3. So just like Jordan was talking about, to make a zero pair, we need to add 2 negatives. Right? Positive and a negative, right? We talked about those zero pairs. If you have the same amount of positives and the same amount of negatives, they're going to be 0. If I go up 5 degrees and then down 5 degrees, I'm at the same place. If I earn $5 and spend $5, I don't have any money anymore. Okay? So we're always, when you're adding the same amount to a negative, it's going to get you 0. So that right here is my zero pair. 2 positives, 2 negatives, that's going to equal 0. I have A equals, now because I minus 2 on this side, I always have to keep it equal, do the same to both sides. I'm going to subtract 2 on this side. 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay? Questions? You good? Okay.